What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to give you my top 10 point guards going into the 2024-2025 NBA season. This top 10 is going to be my personal opinion. I sat down and I wrote down my list of the top 10 point guards and had to revise it a few times because there were some players I was struggling to decide who I thought was better. Now, I know nearly everyone watching this video may not agree with this list, so let me know in the comments your top 10 point guards. If you also enjoyed the video, please make sure to hit that like button. Also, subscribe to the channel. Helps the channel grow. Before we move on to the top 10 list, however, I have a couple of honorable mentions I want to talk about first who did not make my cut. The first honorable mention I want to talk about is Trae Young. I'm a lot higher on Trae Young than some NBA fans. I think his game is extremely entertaining to watch. I actually have him in the top 10 on my first draft of my top 10s list. However, after reviewing the list, I just feel like the point guards I have ahead of him were just a little bit better. And the second honorable mention I have is James Harden. Back in his prime, Harden was that guy. He would get 35 and 10 every night, barely even breaking the sweat. Now, I do feel like those days are behind him, but he's still a highly productive player that could help lead the Clippers this season to a play-in or even a possible playoff berth. But as for this list, these point guards I feel like are better than Harden going into this season. If you had either one of those players in your top 10 list, I can't really argue with you because I almost had those players on my top 10 list as well. But anyways, let's get into this list. First, starting off with number 10, Tyrese Maxey. Maxey had a breakout year last season, averaging around 26 points along with 6 assists on very impressive efficiency. He was given the keys to the offense during Embiid's injury this past regular season, and as the workload increased, his efficiency did suffer a little bit. But I think those 34 stretch of games without Embiid was great for Maxey's development. Every season, he just seems to gain more and more confidence, and with the addition of PG to the roster, Maxey's stats may dip a little bit this upcoming season, with there only being one basketball to share between the three stars. But I expect a huge year from Maxey and for him to possibly climb his rankings in the coming years. Moving on to my number 9 player, that would have to be Tyrese Halliburton. Hallie at the beginning of the year was the most talked about player in the league at one point, and well deserved as well because dude was balling out of his mind, especially during the in-season tournament. During the 7 in-season tournament games that he played in, Hallie averaged a stupid 26 and 13 a game on 52, 42, 86 shooting splits. His play did decrease as the season went on due to injuries, but he would be healthy enough to help lead the Pacers to the Eastern Conference Finals, running through some pretty legitimate teams like the Bucks and the Knicks. Now, most of that run could be credited to injuries, but despite that, Hallie is a talented guard. The only thing I would love to see from Hallie is for him to look for his shot a little bit more in spots where his team needs him to score. His passing vision is special. Not a whole lot of players in the league has the vision that he has. But on that Pacers team, the only other player on that team I would trust to create his own shot is probably Siakam. And there were moments in the playoffs where Hallie needed to step up and he sort of deferred a little bit more than I like to see in those moments. Moving on though, to number 8, I have Jamal Murray. Jamal had a rough summer with Team Canada, coming up short of even medaling during the Olympics earlier this summer. However, as a Laker fan, just take my word for it, Jamal Murray is a killer, man.
Jokic a screen, Murray to try to break the tie.
No timeout by the Lakers, they gotta go.
James above the feed, a Prince shot, no! Zeros on the clock, the Nuggets advance, they have won!
He is not a fun player to root against at all. He has never made an all-star team in his entire career, and that doesn't influence the way I see him one bit. This dude pretty much has 0 holes in his offensive game, and when he gets going, the Nuggets become nearly impossible to deal with. He has come up huge in a lot of big moments, and if healthier, he has the talent to be higher on this top 10 list, but his durability being somewhat of a question mark going forward is what's forcing me to keep him at 8. Going into my 7th best point guard in the league, I have Ja. Now, Ja last season had a whole lot of drama going on around his name with the IG Live incident and the suspension to begin the season. But when he did play last year, man, I really miss watching this dude play basketball. It's almost like every time you watch a game of his, he's going to end up with a ridiculous highlight that will be all over SportsCenter and social media the next day. In his very first game back last season, he exploded back onto the scene, making a game winner on a crazy floater in the lane.
Here goes Morant, he spins. Morant scores! And the timer expires! Count the basket! And Ja Morant wins it for the Grizzlies!
Now, a torn labrum in his right shoulder cut his season short in 2024, but in the 9 games that he played that year, he averaged over 25 points per game. Despite the impressive numbers, I still think there's a bunch of room for Ja's game to grow, and the scary thing is, He's only 25 years old. He's not even at his peak form yet. Moving on though, at number 6, I have De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron last season had a solid year with the Kings, averaging a career high in points along with a career high in steals as well. His jumper is becoming more and more reliable every year, with him shooting 36% from 3 on 7 attempts a game. Those 7 attempts are the most he's ever taken in his career, and for the percentage to be higher than any other season in the past 4 years is really impressive and is a testament to how much work he's really been putting into the lab with his jump shot. I honestly wished I could have put him higher on this list. I love Fox's game, and I had a serious back and forth with De'Aaron and the next player on my list for who I thought was better. But at 5, I had to go with Dame. Now, Dame had a down year last year considering the expectations we have for him year to year, no doubt about it. His efficiency was down, and when you watched him, he didn't seem like completely himself. He had a lot of stuff going on in his life, but even with the down year, he still averaged 24 points per game and still had nights where he looked like he was unstoppable. Remember game 1 of the playoffs?
9 points in the first half, off balance. He's got it! And the foul! Unstoppable!
Dude came out like a flamethrower. Most of the struggles that Dame had last year came from him and Giannis trying to figure out how to play with one another. Dame is on record saying that the transition from Portland to Milwaukee was the hardest transition of his life, and I really can't blame him. Going from being the guy and the offense being built around you and being able to take a shot whenever you want for years to having to fit in somewhere else with expectations and proven veteran guys who you never played with before can be challenging. Not only did Dame have new teammates, he had a brand new first-year head coach join the team before the season even started, and midway during the year, that brand new first-year head coach was replaced by Doc Rivers. The Bucks from top to bottom had no cohesion whatsoever as a unit. In order to be successful with the expectations the Bucks have in this league, there has to be chemistry and cohesion with the unit. You can't just throw players out there with big names and expect them to figure it out. With that being said, however, this is Dame's best chance to compete for a championship. Teaming up with a guy like Giannis, the Bucks should be setting the league on fire. With Dame's ability to stretch the floor and Giannis being able to dominate the paint, their problem isn't their fit. They fit perfectly. They just need to do more to complement each other's games. The easiest way to do that is to run more pick and rolls together. I would actually love to see Doc Rivers implement an inverted pick and roll type concept to the Bucks' offense, similar to what Bron and Curry were doing in the Olympics. Have Giannis be the ball handler and Dame be the screener. Going into year 2 of this experiment, I want to give Dame the benefit of the doubt. Considering the year before last season, he averaged 32 points per game on solid efficiency. So I can't see the drop off happening this drastically this fast. But who knows, we will just have to wait and see. That now brings us to our number 4 player on our list, and at number 4 I have Jalen Brunson. Jalen had himself a year last season with the Knicks. He averaged over 28 points per game for the year, along with helping leading the Knicks to a playoff series win against the 76ers before injuries ended their hopes of a conference championship berth. Brunson's game is very unique. I can't point to anyone in NBA history that reminds me of Brunson. For him to be a smaller guard but still post up 6'5", 6'6" players on a regular basis and cook them with up and under moves and turnaround jumpers is something I never thought I would see in this league. But that's what Brunson did last year, and nobody had an answer for him. With the addition of Mikal Bridges, the Knicks have positioned themselves as strong contenders to represent the East in the NBA Finals this season. I personally think Jalen Brunson is the best point guard in the Eastern Conference, and I expect another huge year from the Knicks' franchise player. With that being said, the next 2 point guards I had the hardest time ranking. I went back and forth with this for days, but in the end, I ended up with Shai at number 3 on the list. Now, SGA had an amazing 23-24 year. He ended the year averaging around 30 points per game and finished second in MVP voting. His ability to operate in the mid-range area is what makes him such a special player. It doesn't matter how you try and play him, he's slippery enough and has enough counters in his repertoire to get to the spots on the floor he wants to get to, and taking what sometimes looks like to be a warm-up jump shot, he has so much space on the floor to shoot. His offensive game is so polished, his ball handling is smooth and unpredictable. He has great size for a point guard in today's NBA, being 6'6", and adding weight to his frame, now weighing 195 pounds, giving him the ability to cause chaos on the defensive side of the floor, being one of the better defensive players on this list. SGA is special, and my pick to win the MVP award this season, an award that he was robbed of last year. Despite all the praise I give Shai, I just couldn't put him ahead of Steph yet. I just couldn't, and that's who I have at number 2. I honestly think it comes down to preference when you decide which one is better between Steph and Shai. If you weren't that big of a Steph fan during the Golden State Warriors dynasty years, then you will probably have no hesitation putting Shai over Steph. And even if you are a Steph fan, you still think Shai is better. I can't say that you're wrong. But to me, I think Steph still has a lot left in the tank. And with the right pieces around him, I think Curry has another run in him. What we saw from him in the Olympics was special, and he reminds you all the time why he's considered the greatest shooter ever. And despite how strong the Western Conference is, I don't think the Warriors are necessarily done. They can be considered long shot contenders, I can agree with that. But last season they won 46 games. If Kuminga continues to grow in his role and Podziemski takes a step, who knows, we could see Golden State in the playoffs again. But finally, this brings us to number 1, and here I have Luka. Luka last year had a magical postseason run, coming up just a couple games shy of winning his first NBA title at just the age of 25. Luka averaged 29, 9, and 8 in that postseason this past year, coming up huge in multiple spots, putting the team on his back in some points in the playoffs. I think this is a no-brainer number 1 spot. He's the second best player in the world in my opinion behind Joker, and yeah, I think he might be the best point guard in the world for a little while too. But that's the end of the video. Please let me know in the comments, what would you change about this list? Also, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.